Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
So it is that time again. It is time for us to do our 1-minute book recs. This is where we go over all the books that we've read in the past week with 1-minute synopsises of each book. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still doing our Road to 1K giveaway, and we still have lots of fun prizes and gifts along the way. The next level is going to be 750. We're getting very, very, very close. And then after that, we've got lots of fun things planned. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram for an extra entry because you don't want to miss out on that. All right, so this was a holiday week. So tell me how your week was.
I read 5 books.
Okay, I read 7 books. Any 5 stars?
I had 1.
Me too. I had 1. So, okay. Yeah, it was a holiday week. We got family, so it's a good thing. That just shows that we spent time with our family. That's all that shows. So, okay. Do you have the timer ready?
More like spent time cleaning, but okay.
And cooking and cleaning. And I was in an emergency room. So, yeah, pretty much. And driving
No, I
kids all
don't
over.
have the timer ready. Sorry.
It's okay. Had to drive the kids all over the country. Okay, hold on. So this first book I read is one that Mandy has tried to get me to read quite a bit. I finally took the plunge, and I read Reason to Believe by Rebecca Yarros. I really enjoyed this one. I made the mistake. I got so excited because audio came out for it, and the audio was horrendous, like absolutely horrendous. It took away from the book. I really wish that I wouldn't have listened to the audio at the first half, because then it probably would have gotten higher than the 4 stars I gave it, but audio ruined it. Anyhow, this is about Knox and Harper. This is a brother's best friend situation, but Knox has promised Harper's brother that he would never touch her. There's this thing between them. They're firefighters. Their dads were killed in the small town firefighting, and they're starting up this hotshot fire crew. And Harper is a teacher, and she has this little boy in her class who's like, oh, he's really little. How old do you think he was, Mandy? I can't remember. Little. 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there.
He was like in preschool, I think. So I think he was only like 3 or 4.
He was little. And then he had a baby brother who was somewhere around that 9-month mark. Their mom is killed, and there's nowhere for them to go. There's no foster family for them to go to. So she says, I will take them on a temporary basis. She's like, I'll take them. And she can't take them to her little apartment. Knox is not in town. He's just built this gorgeous house. She asked for permission. He said, yep, come stay at my house. And then he shows up the next day. She's not expecting him. And she's there with these kids, and the the people who the child care workers come in, and they have to pretend that they're together for the sake of the kids. It's a great story. It was solid for 4.5. I just think that audio messed it up. They had a woman do the audio. I've never heard of her before, and she was horrible. Like, the guy's voice was horrible. It was absolutely, read the book, don't listen to the audio. Just saying. Totally took away. It was horrible. Anyhow, we're going to move on. I'm just saying, don't listen to the audio.
All right. So my first book was my 5-star read, and it was The Pucking Wrong Guy by C.R. Jane. And this is about Ari and Blake. So we meet Ari. Him and Lincoln are like best buds. And so this is his story. And Ari has known Blake since they were really little in a group foster home. And he sees her picture on a billboard because she's doing some modeling. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's her. And he basically drops everything so he can go get her. And Blake was adopted from this foster home into a very snooty family where nothing was ever good enough, basically. And they wanted her to basically, it reminded me a little bit of like the Stepford Wives, that movie, where they just wanted her to like be perfect and all of this. And so she ends up moving clear across the country, basically, to get away from them, and is trying to make it on her own when she meets Ari. And Ari, people say Ari makes Lincoln look like a saint, and he kind of does in many ways. But I loved Ari. He is so funny. He has like a great sense of humor. His relationship with Lincoln and Walker is so fun to watch. And the way he loves Blake, oh, I was here for it. Absolutely loved it. I know it's supposed to be a little bit darker, but I just didn't feel that. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I just loved the book so much, and I cannot wait for the next one to come out in January.
Yeah, I need to read that one. We got both of those signed in Vegas, and I was kind of waiting for the audio, but the audio doesn't come out until January or something on that one, or February, and I'm like, I don't know that I can wait that long.
It's
So,
really, really good. I
mm-hmm.
highly recommend it. And there's some good hockey on page. Like it's just, and oh my gosh, Lincoln is still very much involved in Ari's life. So we see a lot of their relationship in the book too, which is, I
could
enjoyed a lot.
could that be read as a standalone for those who don't want to read the Pucking Wrong Number?
It could, but I think that you enjoy it way more if you've read the
Read.
other one, just for the relationship aspect of the two of them. The story of Ari and Blake, total standalone.
Yeah.
But the relationship with him and Lincoln, I think, makes the book a lot better if you have already read the first book. But you could read it
Okay.
without. It's kind of
Okay.
like any of those interconnected standalones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's better if you read them together, but you can definitely not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. I'll get to that here hopefully soon. Okay. With my long list of books that need to be read. Okay. So my next read was our buddy read for the month of November, and this was Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery. We had our live show a week ago, and that on Amber Reads Romance. If you guys want to go watch that, but there are spoilers in there, so if you haven't read the book, then I wouldn't do it yet. But this is Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery. This is about Noah and Fisher. This is a boyfriend's dad romance. This was a 4.5 star. I loved the story. This is about Noah, who is our heroine, and she's at a rodeo. She meets Fisher. They have a one night stand. It's all hot and hot. And then she realizes that this is her ex-boyfriend's dad. So she leaves, and then she ghosts him. And then he actually shows up at her family's ranch where she works as a farrier. And the family has just hired him on to be the new farrier for the ranch. So this is their story. I highly recommend it. It is great. I really feel like, and we talked about this, I feel like Brooke Montgomery's this series is going to be the next Elsie Silver series. It really has that feel to it. So I'm excited to see what happens for her as an author. Yeah. Okay, what else you got?
Okay, so my next book is Not So Nice Guy by R.S. Gray. And this was like a 3.5 star for me. This is about Ian and Sam. They work together at a school, and their relationship is defined as like a Pam and Jim style relationship. Apparently, everyone where they work thought that they were dating. And Sam accidentally says, "Oh no, we're not. We're just really good friends." And so once everyone finds this out, everyone on staff that's single, like immediately all the women are like flocking to Ian, and the men are trying to get Sam because they just assumed they were off the market. And from there, like Sam has always had this crush on Ian, and apparently Ian's kind of had a crush on Sam, but neither one of them wanted to do anything because they didn't want to ruin a friendship by trying to see what else there could be there. And so this is them like kind of panicking because they realize now that this perfect little world that they've lived in as just best friends without really outside influences is now shattered. Um, I mean, it was good, but I think that I just don't care for friends to lovers because it like if there's not this initial, I just don't get it. Like, oh, I don't want to be with you because I don't want to ruin what we have. So then you'd rather the person go off and find somebody else. Like that's gonna ruin it anyways, because if the person's in like a long-term committed relationship, you guys are gonna be spending like all this time together anymore. Like your
Yeah.
relationship's gonna change anyways. So the friends to lovers thing, I just don't
Yeah.
quite get, especially when they're harboring these like secret crushes on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a little bored with the I don't want to ruin what we have, but I also don't want anyone else to have you thing. But it was still good. if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Friends to Lovers
So,
doesn't work for me either most of the time.
yeah, if you like Friends to Lovers, you'd probably enjoy this one. The writing was good. I listened to it, so the audio was good too.
Okay.
All
All right.
right.
So for my next book, I went back to E.J. Lawson's Omegaverse. I cannot remember the name of the series. I kind of wish that we had our own book journal because then it has a spot to write that in. But that is coming. I promise, guys, that is coming really, really soon. But this is Captivate by E.J. Lawson, and this is the first in that series. I read the second book last week. So this is about Riley. She's been living as a beta for her whole life, like disguising herself as a beta. And her mom had died of this illness that is affecting all the Omegas in the world at this point. And so she has it as well. So she knows that she's dying. She's not going to live a very long life. She's going to die this painful, horrible death because she has this weird disease. But she's been living as a beta. She's ran out of suppressants. She's a ghostwriter. And she goes to get her suppressants illegally. And then she's at a bookstore that she used to work at, and she's checking out the books to see if there are any of her books on the shelf that she's written for these authors. And when she meets this alpha who's there, and there's an instant attraction between them, but she realizes that he can possibly tell that she's an Omega, so she runs off. When she does, she runs into a situation where there's like a police that realize that they realize she's Omega, and they're trying to chase her down because you can't just have Omegas out on the street without having a companion or like a family member with them or an alpha with them. And this guy sees what's going on. He comes out and he says, "Oh no, she's mine. We just haven't officially claimed her yet. And I forgot to file the paperwork, but she's mine." And so they make him her alpha, and he has to take her home to his pack, who do not want an Omega. And he hasn't cleared this with his pack yet. So he's taking home a sickly, dying Omega, which he doesn't realize she's dying yet, to his pack, who don't want an Omega. So there was some rejection stuff going on there too. Forced proximity. So this I gave 4 stars to. I'm going to read the third book, hopefully this week, that's in the series, and we'll see how it goes. They're all standalones in the same world, so you can read them as standalones. You can read them out of order like I have. If you like Omegaverse, I love these ones. They're great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mandy, seriously, don't laugh at me. Just read the dang book.
So my next book was Maple Sugar Crush by Beth Labonte. This was a 4-star read for me, maybe like 3.75. I'm not really sure. So this is about Riley and Josie. Josie is a Powerball winner, and it has unfortunately drastically changed her life because she no longer knows, like, when people just want to be her friend and to get to know her for who she is, or when they just really just want to try and get money from her. And her mom is worried about her not meeting anybody. And so every time she goes home for Thanksgiving, her mom literally brings like a whole bunch of eligible men to Thanksgiving to try and hook her up with one of them. So Josie decides that she's just not going to do that, and she's going to stay home for Thanksgiving and host a Thanksgiving feast for those people who don't have anywhere else to go. And this kind of accidentally really blows up on her, and her family feels sad that she's not going to be there. So her whole family comes up a week before Thanksgiving to help her with this, which she was trying to avoid the family. And her mom, again, brings a bunch of eligible men with her. So she panics and says that Riley is actually her boyfriend and they're very happy together. And so that's where this like fake dating comes in, but they actually kind of maybe like each other. So this is kind of a friends to lovers that I kind of understand, because they weren't involved like that with each other. They didn't have these secret feelings. They weren't pining for each other. They just they just didn't develop their relationship that far yet. And then the fake dating kind of thrust them into that. So this I can get behind. So
I just gotta say, I feel a little ripped off. My mom never invited a bunch of eligible bachelors to Thanksgiving when I was single. Nobody did. That was
did you
rude.
want her to? I could only imagine.
No, because my dad made me date with somebody one time. It was a guy. He was like, "You gotta date him." Turned out to be no,
Well, your
never.
dad hasn't exactly had great luck in the matchmaking
He
skills.
hasn't. He's so bad at it. So And this is a person I'd known for a long time, but he was my dad's machinist, and he worked on his machines. And he's like, it'd be so cool if you two got together. Maybe I'd get a discount. And I'm like, Dad, that's not what we're doing here. Yeah, that lasted one whole date.
All right. Well, good for you for humoring him for a date.
I know. He was so proud of me. Okay. I have to tell you about this next book so much. I've been waiting. Mandy, I think I told you about this one. This is Bren by BJ Alpha. This is my 5-star of the week. This book got me pregnant. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. Bren can dirty talk. Wow. This book was on fire. Okay, so this is the 4th book in her Secrets and Lies series, and you can read them as standalones, but I suggest reading the whole series all the way through. Each book gets better and better, but this is about Bren and Sky. I literally wrote in my book, "Oh, holy crap on a Christmas cracker." This book was so hot. So Bren is the head of their mafia, the head of this Irish mafia group. He's the head of the brothers, and he is gruff and surly and just, the complete a-hole to everybody. And they find out about this human trafficking ring, and they get a call that one of their boxes in their warehouse weighs more than it should, and because they know things are going on, they suspect that there's a person in there. They go down, they open the box up, and there's a girl chained inside. Definitely check triggers, guys. There's a girl chained inside the box, and he scoops her up. She's naked, she's tiny. He scoops her up, he brings her back to his apartment. She is he calls her Sky because she has a very weird name. It's like Red something, because she's been kept in this compound. She was kidnapped as a child and trained in this compound, knowing she would be sold one day. They've trained these kids and teens and whatever to be what the buyer would want. And so they've trained them in like sexual favors and that kind of stuff. And he believes that she's 21. He's pushing 40 at this point. So there's already an age gap there. But it was so good. He decides he needs to keep her. There's a lot that happens in this book.
Because that's what we should do with a fragile girl.
Well, I didn't say that he actually does. He wants to, and he's very possessive. He's over the top possessive. There's just something about her. Obviously there's a lot of breeding in this book because it's BJ Alpha, but I'm in the middle of the next book right now, and it's just as good. But I'm telling you, 5 stars. Loved this book so much. And when I say it made me pregnant, I actually messaged BJ and I was like, I think I'm knocked up and I don't even have a uterus. So yeah.
You're so weird. Okay.
I'm so telling the truth. Oh my gosh.
Next. Okay, so my next one was called Her Sexy Challenge by Sarah Balance. I don't know. This is about Caitlin and Shane, and this is Caitlin is trying to get over some fears, and she decides to walk across this bridge in her new town from her house to her bookstore that she just bought. But she's terrified of water because of some things that have happened. But she's like, I'm gonna be able to walk across this bridge. Well, she gets halfway across and has a panic attack, which results in the firefighters having to show up and help her get across. And so Shane is the lieutenant there, and he shows up and helps her get across. And if that isn't mortifying enough, something else happens and he has to show up again to help her. And Shane and her have this kind of instant chemistry, but he is leaving. He's gone in 2 weeks because his dad was a firefighter and he wants to go to where his dad had been. And he feels like he's destined for like big city life and not the small, country-ish type town. And so he is on his way out the door. But the two of them can't deny like this chemistry between them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So there you go.
It was good. 4 stars.
All right. Okay. So the next book that I read was also Mafia. This is Lorenzo by Sadie Kincaid. This is the 3rd in her Chicago Ruthless series. I haven't read the other 2. Maybe I should have, but it doesn't say. It says it's a standalone. It's been a lot of talk. This book, people have been talking about it a lot in the Dark and Disturbed Facebook reading group. So I'm like, yeah, if everybody's mentioning it, let's get on this. Yeah, they let me down this time. So this is about Lorenzo and Mia. Mia is on the run from her abusive husband, who is a cop in another town. And she decides to run to her cousin, who is married to Lorenzo's brother. And Lorenzo's brother runs the Mafia. She knows that they're Mafia. And so she runs to them. It's her only family that she has left. And so that's where she goes. And we see Lorenzo. The book starts out when he's at his wife's funeral. His wife has now been dead for 2 years. She died of some illness. And he has not gotten over, not that you can get over it, but he has not moved on from that in 2 years. Like, he doesn't even sleep in their bed that they slept in, because that's where she'd been sick, and he doesn't want to sleep in that bed. So he sleeps on the couch in the last 2 years. Anyhow, when they finally get to that point where they have a relationship between the two of them, then it turns into, he was a dom, and his wife was his submissive, and now she wants to be his submissive because she's kind of into that. And it goes, like, the book just felt way too long, first of all, because you have, like, the first half is them, like the first 200-300 pages of them getting together. Then there's like another couple hundred pages of what it felt like anyway, of him becoming her dom. And I was like, this is just, no. So this was a 3-star for me. It didn't feel angsty enough. It felt like he moved on. So he couldn't move on for 2 years, and then all of a sudden he moves on. Then she's this flighty, laughy, jokey person, but she's being beat to death by her husband, and she makes jokes about it. And I don't know, it didn't work for me. It just did not work for me. It was 3 stars. It was okay, but I'm not going to reread it, and I'm not going to tell Mandy that she needs to read it. So let's put it that way. Yeah.
So then I read the next book in the Firefighters series. I read Finding Mr. Right Next Door by Sarah Balance. And this is, again, Friends to Lovers. And I don't know how I ended up stuck on this trope, since I don't really like it. But I just wanted to listen to the next book, because it sounded good. And it fell a little short for me. So it was a 3 stars. This is about Lexi and Matt. And they are really good friends again. And Lexi accidentally sets her kitchen on fire. And of course, Matt works for the fire department, so that's a little bit embarrassing. And he tells her she can come stay with him while her kitchen's being redone, and then passes inspection for her to get to move back in there. Sorry, my donkey's being funny. So she's living with Matt, and things, kind of start to change direction a little bit. I was really hopeful that this was, I guess I want like a little more angst in the Friends to Lovers. Maybe that's what it is. I just hate this back and forth of like, oh, I don't want to ruin what we have. To me, that's not angsty, and it's boring. I get bored with that. So for me, I was a little bored with the book. So it was still good. It's a 3-star read. So again, if you like Friends to Lovers, I think that the ones I read this week, you would enjoy all of them. If it's not really your trope, then you might be kind of a little bit bored with it, like me.
Okay.
It needs to feel new, like exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not like you're reading the same thing again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So my next book was a little disappointing, and it was a little disappointing myself, because I didn't realize that I'd already read this a few years ago, and I didn't mark it high then, and I didn't mark it high now, because I'm kind of crazy, apparently. So this is Lawless by Crystal Ash. So the idea behind this was kind of cool, because it's an MC romance, but it's set in a post-apocalyptic world, which sounded awesome until the book really got going. So our heroine she bills herself as a medic, because women aren't allowed to have rights in this world now that the world is kind of fallen apart, and they're not allowed to practice medicine. She's a nurse. She went to nursing school. This world is just gone to hell in a handbasket, obviously. And so our MC rolls up to this place where it's like a stop on their way to run guns and drugs and all the stuff that they do post-apocalyptically, because that's still important. And they see her there. They need a medic. They basically take her back to their compound, and whether she wants to or not. And that's where things go. It's supposed to be a reverse harem, so I don't know who she's going to end up with, because in the first book she didn't end up with anybody. And then at the end of the book, things turn paranormal, where there's some powers and there's some things going on. I gave it 3 stars. I'm I got it as a bind up of like the first 3 or 4 books on audio, and I'm debating, do I continue on and just see if it gets any better? Because literally nothing has happened in this book as far as relationship goes. I'm not even sure who the harem's gonna be. I just too much in one book. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
Obviously it didn't resonate with me the first time around, because I got pretty far into this before I'm like, I think I read this before.
That's hilarious.
It was sad. So sad.
All right.
Okay.
Let's hear about your next one.
All right. So my next one was our Convincing Me book that will be out later this week, right, Mandy?
I think so.
Okay, I think it's later this week. And this is Pretty Thing by J.A. Huss. I'm not going to tell you what I rated it because you're going to have to watch the video, but I'll tell you a little bit of what it's about. So this is a brother's best friend romance. It's about Aiden and Callie. Callie's twin brother, Kyle, has just passed away unexpectedly. And so she goes back for the funeral. She's been gone for a while, but she and Kyle and Aiden were all very close growing up. And Kyle has always told Aiden to stay away from his sister. Well, things start to progress for them. But now Kyle is dead and gone, and they can't get his blessing. And they felt like, his wishes were for them to stay apart. And so this is their story and how that progresses. So so you have to just watch that video to see what I thought about it. And that's all I have for the week.
So in the comments, let us know, do you like the friends to lovers trope? If so, what's a great book for that trope? Because we maybe haven't found it yet. And then I have one other thing for you to comment and tell us about. When you are reading a book like Jessica's talking about, and this first book in the series, and you don't really care for it, are you done? Or do you give it like another book to see if it gets better? What do you do in that situation? Okay, make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us, and also on Wednesdays for the rest of 2023 for our Romance School 101 videos.
Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.